right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Amir's Anecdotes. Today I have a great guest. I have AJ Scordio. AJ is a good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. AJ, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for the people that don't know you?
All right. Well, first and foremost, Amir, thanks for having me. My name's AJ. I own a digital marketing agency, and I know Amir from way back in the day when we were waiters in Huntington Park.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm an entrepreneur and been running my business for about 10 years now.
Yeah, wow. A decade of entrepreneurship. So what did you do before that?
So before that, I graduated from Bucknell University and I got a job at JP Morgan in their investment banking division. So I was supporting the investment banking and I was in that role for about 3 years. And I decided that I wanted to do a complete 180. It wasn't really satisfying me. It wasn't really what I felt I was meant to do. So I really did make a very abrupt change. I quit and I went to film school.
That's definitely a huge change. So when you were 3 years into investment banking and you're like, this is not for me, did you kind of anticipate that at all? Were you kind of pushed into investment banking and you never wanted to do it in the first place?
I kind of anticipated it. I knew it deep down that it wasn't really for me. I feel like if you don't really love what you're doing, you're not going to do as well at it. So that was one of the main things. Like, I was still hanging in there, but I definitely was not scoring like high in the performance review. And I was there's really no phenomenal path here. I just kind of will be just hanging on and kind of just going through the motions if I stay here. You know, I wasn't really putting my best foot forward. I wasn't really invested. It got a couple of bad performance reviews. And then I've always felt like, even from back in the day, that I had this creative side that I was wanting to explore. And I thought at the moment, I was like, it's either now or never, because I know that more of the responsibilities are going to start to pile up as I go through my mid-20s into my late 20s and whatnot. So I figured, I just made a calculated decision. I said, this is the time to roll.
And how old are you at that point? 24, 25?
Yeah, so I was like 24.
24.
Going on.
So you're 24, you decide to go to film school.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but how did you like pay for film school and like cover your expenses during that time?
So actually with film school, my father helped me out. He paid for it, which was phenomenal. I went through a 1-year program for producing at New York Film Academy. And then at that time, it was a big change for me because I went from living in the city. So then I realized I had to move back home. So I moved back, went to film school, and then became a waiter as well. And that's where I met you.
So then you start waiting tables, you're going to film school. You left that like really sexy world of investment banking that's really just fueled on lots of coffee and maybe some other things. But now you're in film school and you're like waiting tables. So that's good. And then how did your journey kind of progress from there?
So like essentially I took a lot of pride in what I was doing. And I was really excited, really ambitious at first, really getting after it. I started writing a TV show. I started just learning the craft of producing as well. And then after a little bit of time, I used some of the money that I'd saved from the banking job. Then it started to get real. Like, I was like, wow, okay, like, this is like, I'm actually fully in the deep water of like, I'm a totally different person than what I was before. And then a little bit of panic started to set in at that time.
As you were going through that journey, you started then going from film school to then making TV shows to doing other types of producing. And then now, where did that transition to after that?
Yeah, so I went to film school. I started creating my own indie TV shows, just like a creative project of mine, loosely based off my life. And then at the same time, I started working for some companies doing music videos, and also working on some like bigger, movie sets as well as like a production assistant. doing locations for some of these bigger films.
Anything that like and one of the audience members would have seen?
So I did a movie with Alec Baldwin and Demi Moore. I did a Steve Aoki music video. Yeah, so that one of the things that I did.
That's great. Are you allowed to say which Alec Baldwin movie?
It was more of an indie
Oh, it
one.
was like an indie thing. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and like, how did you land those jobs?
I landed those jobs primarily through connections at New York Film Academy, and then also just working in the industry. You meet other people, and you connect with people on set, and they kind of bring you along on the journey. So it's very much like who you know in that world, and there's little crews of people that kind of sign on to film sets, and this is the crew that's doing the locations. This is the crew that's doing the production, right, or the hair and makeup, right? So I kind of got together, would bounce around from different crews, and yeah.
I feel like some of that's lost now for like the quarantine COVID era, like people that were graduating college then, they didn't really get to build those connections the way that you're talking about.
I definitely think so. And especially that industry got hit so hard. It's a phenomenal industry, but it is a grind. It is really a grind. And who you know also at the same time.
So you do this Alec Baldwin movie, you do the Steve Aoki video, you're really deep in being a production assistant, doing locations, doing all these other things. And then where did you transition thereafter?
So at that point, I realized I was kind of bouncing around a lot. I had a skill set. I understood how to produce things because I was creating my own TV show, hiring actors, doing everything end to end, as well as working on professional sets. So that's when I decided, okay, it's time for me to step into being an entrepreneur and trying to make a living out of this, because I really wanted to pave my own path and be in control of my own destiny, rather than kind of be at the whim of an industry that is very difficult to move up in, unless you know people, right? So I just decided, yeah, this is the path forward for me. Both my parents are entrepreneurs, so I was like, all right, like I have a end of what it takes. I've seen them struggle, but I've also seen them really prosper, and I've also seen them take risks. So I wasn't necessarily afraid of that, because I saw them take the risks and also fail, but also succeed at the same time.
And I think on some level, some of this was like you really didn't want to have to do another performance review
No,
ever again.
no.
Good. So what did you kind of do as you pivoted more into that entrepreneurial path?
So the main thing I did was I joined a network out in Long Island called Long Island Builders Institute. I was like really more so like going person to person, networking, shaking hands, trying to make things happen that way. I also took a moment, because like you have to understand, I just knew about video and film, which is phenomenal, but really the next step for me was knowing that I wanted to do it for businesses, because I realized that if I could connect the creativity and also create create a system where I'm creating leads for businesses, then it could be recurring revenue, and it could be something that really is financially going to work out.
Is that kind of what you're still doing today, or have you pivoted from there, like doing that kind of video-based marketing for businesses?
Yeah, we started out doing video, and that's really what got us noticed. That's where we're able to build a website with very good brand image because of that, and that's in our DNA that we are. However, when I made the switch, I took 6 months out of my life, and I learned everything about digital marketing. I just sat down and, all right, we're going to make this happen, right? I know I have the brains for it, because I did have that financial background as well. So I was like, let me take the creativity all the way on one end, and then financial on the other end, or more the analytical mind, and kind of pair them together. So I locked myself in a room and I studied every aspect of digital marketing. I bought one of the courses from like India, but it was just like curriculum for like 6 months. So I did that. And then after that, I kind of emerged, and I had a few clients at that point where it was kind of like, yeah, I'm doing videos for you. I can make animated videos for you. I can also sort of help you with your website. But then I emerged from that, and I was able to upsell my client base and start to give them some digital services as well.
Yeah, that's really cool because that is like, I mean, marketing and the name of your company is Marketing Real. Like, it is that intersection of creativity and
Yeah.
finance.
So that's our competitive advantage. Even though the creativity side of it, in terms of the videos, just creating specific videos, has parts down a lot over the past several years.
Yeah. I always say that that's like the real key to success is either loving or being good at two different things and combining them. So like if you are a great engineer and you're really interested in medicine, I mean those are the guys that make the machines that do these robo stitches or like the sleeve that can pump a heart or 3D print organs or make prosthetic legs. Those guys are making ridiculous amounts of money and it's the intersection of two skill sets. And it sounds like that's what you've kind of created is that intersection of creativity and finance and
Yeah,
calling
and
it
you wouldn't
marketing.
know, like, when I was quitting my job in finance, I thought I'm going to be TV, Hollywood, I'm going to be in this and that. And you just wouldn't know that at that point that I'd be able to kind of combine both. Like you couldn't think about it. Now in retrospect, you see how every experience you've been through is kind of, helped mold the person that you are today.
Yeah. So what an amazing journey. So you started off in that investment banking, hated that grind, hated having a boss, went heavy into creativity, became your own boss, and then parlayed those two arguably unrelated skills of finance and creativity to then create a whole new marketing and digital marketing firm. That's definitely a really cool story. So as you think back on that journey, which is, as I know, and as you said, over a decade long, which part of that journey was the most financially stressful for you? What's the most kind of financially stressful thing you've ever faced in that
I
journey?
think the most financially stressful was after I quit my job and then went to film school and then was investing in my own productions for the TV shows creating and then also the working on film sets, right? I essentially like went bankrupt. I like just really had no money, right? And that was a hard pill for me to swallow because I was always kind of the person. I mean, you could imagine going to JP Morgan, and I was looked at, especially in my family, as like, okay, this guy's the guy who is becoming successful and is going to be successful. That was the toughest thing, just to kind of come to terms where it's like, shit, like we are, we're doing what we love, but we're just so financially destitute that it was just impacting every aspect of my life.
Yeah, and especially with that family pressure, that sounds really difficult. So, did you formally declare bankruptcy,
I
or
just
you
had
just
no
had no
money.
money?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I just want to make that distinction clear because formally declaring bankruptcy is like this whole other process. Okay, so you're basically broke. So that did that cause a fight in your family because they expected like certain levels of Christmas presents, and you were the investment banker, and now you're like, guys, I wait tables, I'm broke.
A little bit. There were certain instances I feel like with different family members, like let's say, if there's more formal events and they're expecting a bigger gift, right? And I don't show up with it right away, right? And because I didn't have it, I had to like wait like 3 months, I think if other people weren't in those shoes and didn't understand it, like if they weren't in those shoes, it's hard to wrap your brain around it, right? Because most people have a job and you get your paycheck every week, and it's like, dude, don't blow all your money on like strippers and cocaine or like crazy. Right? But I didn't have any of that regularity in my life.
Wow. So now, obviously, I already know that you're Italian. You have a big Italian family. So, like, you not showing up with a wedding gift, that's obviously a huge slap in the face to your family. Like, that, I'm sure that didn't go over well. But what are all the other ways that you identify yourself? Obviously, Italian, obviously, an entrepreneur. But what are the other ways that you would describe yourself?
Husband, so married now. Yeah, son. I like to stay active and physically, playing sports, spiritual as well, right? So when you're going through tough times, there's things that you can really, you know, look up and see there's got to be something else out there.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see as I'm like editing this podcast later, what is the amount of minutes we went from strippers and cocaine to spiritual. I think that's like
There's
a
a fine
record.
line, my friend.
So, is as you were kind of struggling with going from a guy that had a ton of money to now like a guy that's waiting tables, can't really even show up to a big Italian wedding with a wedding
I,
gift.
I never had a ton of money because I was only there for 3 years, but I was on track to, you know, or upper class. Yeah.
Yeah, you were on track to be super wealthy, but like you had a steady money as opposed to now it's like, what am I going to get in tips in waiting tables this Saturday? Which is very, very similar to entrepreneurship. Personally, with my clients, I see that people that waited tables at some point in their life do end up being very good entrepreneurs because they're already used to not knowing how much money they're going to make, either because in the business they don't know what they're going to have in sales, or in waiting tables they don't know what they're going to have in tips. And that's also a very American thing. Like in Europe, they don't really tip anyway, so they don't get that correlation. To kind of get back to you and your journey, like, was there a part of that process where you are, as you said, bankrupt or just broke as you're, getting out of film school and trying to make some money? Um, was there any way that you identified yourself that kind of made that struggle feel impossible to get out of?
For sure. Like I was really trying to figure out how could I make this thing work. Like for sure. Like I didn't, and when I was doing the in-person networking and doing that, like you have to understand I'm trying to sell digital marketing or tactics that I was learning that were kind of like a little bit above everyone's head.
How did you kind of get out of that? Because obviously we know the whole story, right? Because we started with that, where now you have this successful digital marketing company. But when you were at that lowest point from waiting tables and just getting out of film school and restarting basically, how did you get out of that? How did you make that transition? And for the sake of anyone else listening, like I'm sure there are people who didn't even have that JP Morgan side. They went straight into that creativity route. And now they're like, well, now what do I do?
Honestly, like there was just some people that believed in me, and that made the world of a difference. And I was able to like kind of keep myself afloat for several years, right? We're talking 3-4 years, just kind of getting enough income each month just to keep myself going. So it was really a couple of people early on that believed in me. There's someone called Dave Bloom from Pioneer Truck. Repair. He really helped me out a lot because he gave me a shot initially, and I started to prove myself to him. And then he started introducing me to a lot of other people as well. Another great client was Stacy Connor, who is another truck repair company out west in Seattle. So that's kind of like how it opened up for me a little bit more. Granted, it was truck repair industry, so it's kind of like you don't really connect that. But I was just like, I was happy to have clients. I was happy to just like be making some money. So, and I think the clients appreciated that I had a digital marketing view, and they felt that I was forward thinking.
Yeah. So it sounds like really the key for you was like the people around you and mentorship.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So anyone else listening to this, that is really the key. If you, and I couldn't agree more. The people you surround yourself with, that energy and that ability and knowing that other people have faith in you, I think that can really propel you.
They were entrepreneurs themselves. So I think a part of them saw me a little bit of what I was going through, and they kind of recognized that, So, and then I also had my parents who are entrepreneurs as well. So they also provided that sounding board, that person I could go talk to. My dad's an entrepreneur, so I would go and I talk to him, and I never felt judged by him. I always felt like, I know what you're going through, just keep at it. You're building a good foundation. You're building it the right way. And that was also really really motivating for me at the time.
I wonder if your parents, worked like a 9 to 5 kind of office job. It sounds like they probably would have then pushed you to say like, hey man, you don't have to be an entrepreneur. Get a job. And like, do you think that would have really negatively impacted you?
I think so. I think it would have changed. That I wouldn't have been able to suffer that much more longer. I given up, I think, earlier. And also shout out to my mom is also a lawyer now and everything. So she helped me get my paperwork. Wraps. Otherwise that would have opened up the whole other, and she's just a phenomenal business mind. So she really, yeah.
Yeah, so 100%, it's the company you keep that really kind of helped get you out of that hole.
Yes. Honestly, it was that kept me going, that started me going the right direction. It made me believe that I could do this. And at that point, I was making a living for myself. And I didn't have any employees, though. So just like, am I a business or am I just a dude that does it, right? And I remember being embarrassed, like I would like go on Zoom calls with people and I'd be taking them from like my house or whatnot. This was before the pandemic and people would have offices and everything like that. So then what really took it to the next level was kind of an unfortunate thing, right? The pandemic hit and all of the businesses that I was working with really needed to put their message out there digitally. So
what an opportunity for
that created enough extra business for me so that I could hire someone else. And then after that, the next big thing that happened was my clients that I was working with, they all went to a consultant. You might know him, Grant Cardone. So they all went to him. Like it was kind of like a thing that they started to do. So a few of them went to him, and Cardone at the time was doing consulting through something called Cardone Ventures, right? But they didn't have an arm of their consulting that supported on the marketing side. So then my clients introduced me to Cardone Ventures, that whole team, and then I started working with a lot of their clients.
Oh, they would sub out to you.
So that's really what then elevated it to like the next level. And now we have 7 full-time employees across the U.S. We work with clients across the U.S., right? Yeah.
That's incredible. What a journey, man. And the moral of the story, I think, is to really make sure you are intentional about the company you keep and the people around you. Because that sounds like it was the make or break for you.
That's what kept me going. That's what kept me going. Once I would have given up. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that story. So, AJ, if anyone wants to get in touch with you after listening to this and learn more about your story or maybe get some advice or maybe hire you for digital marketing, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you could reach me at my cell at 516-225-5321 or on my website, marketing-reel. That's REEL.com.
I hope so badly that this goes viral because you just gave out your cell phone number.
It is wild.
Most people, they're just like, yeah, on Instagram, here's my handle.
I'm an open book, man. All right. Full transparent here.
Please call AJ. At least send him a text and let him know that you listened to my podcast so that he'll then let me know and we'll track those numbers. AJ, anything you want to say before we close out?
No, thank you for your help and your guidance, because you have helped me in my mid-20s and you believed in me when I was financially destitute. And you helped set up some great parameters for me to start saving with the little that I had. And I'm just really happy to see your growth as well, which has been in parallel with mine.
Yeah, and in fairness, so AJ, in the interest of full disclosure, AJ is one of my clients. He's been one of my earliest clients. So similarly, he took a chance on me, just like his client in Seattle took a chance on him. And well, actually, not to then disclose all your information, but one of the first things I told AJ to do was have an emergency fund. And I think we started. Do you remember? Was it like $20 a month or something like that? where I was like, just put some money to the side. And he did not want to do it. He wanted to just take every dollar and reinvest in the business. And I told him to have some side money. And I think that was a huge game changer for you. It gave you, having the emergency fund actually gave you the confidence, if I remember correctly, to make better business decisions instead of like always going with nothing.
That's not a good way to live. You need to have like a little bit of cushion, even if it's just, $1,000 or whatever, difference in your mental health, I would say too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember those days. So AJ, thank you so much for joining.
All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.